Hey guys, so during this video I'm going to be talking about hypertrophy, the two different types, and how to manipulate the variables for each type of hypertrophy and depending on your level of training experience. The reason that I'm going to talk about this is so that you know about the different types of hypertrophy and how to manipulate the variables for each specific type. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what is hypertrophy. So very simply, hypertrophy is just your muscle increasing in size. It's getting bigger. Now we have two types of muscle hypertrophy. We have what's called sarcoplasmic and myofibrillar. And very simply, without getting into a detailed anatomy and physiology lesson, myofibrillar hypertrophy refers to the muscle fibers increasing in size. And that's the conventional hypertrophy that everybody thinks and knows. Now, your muscle consists of muscle fibers, okay? And within those muscle fibers, we have small contractile proteins that are called myofilaments. So when we talk about myofibrillar hypertrophy, it's just a very specific variable manipulation that will increase the number of those myofilaments, which therefore results in the muscle fiber and subsequently the muscle increasing in size. In contrast, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is in relation to the fluid, which is the sarcoplasm, that surrounds all of the individual muscle fibers within the muscle. So sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is simply an increase in the volume of the sarcoplasm. Now, increases in hypertrophy via increasing the volume of the sarcoplasm result in very little strength gains, but a visually larger muscle belly. Whereas myofibrillar hypertrophy results in an increase in the size of the muscle, but also an increase in functional strength. So that's as detailed as I'm going to get with regards to myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. How do you train for both? Well, myofibrillar hypertrophy is more classic strength training, so heavier weights, lower reps, longer rest periods, so think 5x5 for example. Whereas sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is the quintessential bodybuilding style training, so higher reps, shorter rest periods, greater volume, and all that good stuff. So that's an overview of the two different types of hypertrophy. Now what I'm going to go through is the training variables and how to apply those based on your level of training experience, of which today I'm going to cover three, which is beginner, recreational, and advanced. So a beginner is 6 months of continuous training experience or less. Recreational is 6 to 12 months, and advanced is longer than 12 months, okay? So that's an easy way to categorize people based on their training experience. The components that we're going to look at today is the duration of the hypertrophy training phase expressed in weeks, repetitions per set, how many sets per exercise, the rest period, which is in seconds, so it's in between sets, and then the number of sessions per week. So we'll start with our beginner. So the duration of the training phase, 6 weeks. Okay. Repetitions between 6 and 12, sets per exercise, 2 to 3. Rest periods, 1 to 2 minutes. And the number of sessions per week, 2 to 3. Our recreational trainers, 3 to 6 weeks is the training phase. 9 to 12 reps per set, 4 to 5 sets per exercise, rest periods 45 to 60 seconds, and 3 to 5 sessions per week. And the advanced trainee, everything is the same as per recreational, however, 4 to 5 sessions per week. So just by way of example, the beginner, okay, here with 2 to 3 sessions per week, this is where full body workouts work great. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or something, non-consecutive days, works really well. And usually these guys, the beginners, okay, they'll continue to get their newbie gains and progress at a fairly rapid rate, week in and week out, up to about 6 months. From there, once we have a bit more training experience and we move into the recreational category, that's when you'll usually start to introduce things like split routines, where you might train each muscle group twice a week on a 2-day on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off split, or any number of variations that are out there. And then the advanced is fairly similar. So that's just an overview on how to manipulate these programming variables based on individual training experience. Now, what I like to do in the bigger picture, in a periodized training model, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, I like to use a step overload or a linear periodized model. So what I do is if my strategic goal for that year is hypertrophy, I will program 6-week hypertrophy blocks, or 3 to 6 week hypertrophy blocks, and that will be a sarcoplasmic hypertrophy block. And then my next training block, which will be 3 weeks, is a maximum strength training block. So think classic squat, bench, deadlift, military press, etc. 5x5. And I'll do that for 3 weeks. And that also facilitates the myofibrillar hypertrophy response. And then I'll go back to another 3 or 6 week sarcoplasmic hypertrophy block. And that's all I'm doing, is interspersing myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy blocks with a greater focus on the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy blocks. And what I like to do is each one of those sarcoplasmic hypertrophy blocks, I use a different training system. So I might do conventional hypertrophy or sarcoplasmic hypertrophy training that looks like this. Or I might use other training systems like German volume training, rest pause, do a lot of supersets, drop sets, and things like that. So each time I come back to that sarcoplasmic training block, it's a different system, which is great for a number of reasons. I've been doing that since 2002 and has worked really well. So that concludes this video. In summary, we've spoken about hypertrophy, what it is, the 2 types, how to train for each type, and how to manipulate the training variables based on your individual level of training experience. Hope you found the video useful. If you've got any questions at all with regards to training, nutrition, or hypertrophy, let me know. All the best.